We want to party with Slash. So let me give you a little context. So I'm playing in a Sunset Strip band. It originally started out as Shock and the Night and Day Horns. It was a, four-piece metal band, typical guitar, bass, and drums, with a three-piece horn section. So it was something unique on the Strip, and it gave us an edge as far as being different from the rest of the bands on the Strip. And so I'm playing in that band, and we go through personnel changes. The singer, he has to leave. We get rid of the singer, and we get another singer, and the horn players leave after a while, and it becomes this revolving door of band members. And at one point, the management and the booking agent, in one of these new iterations, we had a cease and desist order sent from I believe it was a disco band that had also been not really a Sunset Strip band, but I think they might even have been based in Europe. I'm not sure. But we couldn't use the name Shock anymore. And that was the name that we had built up, and it was like, okay, this is a hurdle. We couldn't think of another name. We couldn't come up with something that everybody agreed on. So one day the booking agent and the manager show up and go, well, we got you a gig. And they literally push this flyer out in front of us that says, his boy Elroy at Exposure 54. And we're like, his boy Elroy, what the hell? And man, I was furious. I was just like, I was just like livid. And I had confronted the booking agent many years later, like maybe 10 years ago, on Facebook, and said, you named our band, and I would never do that to one of my clients. Dude, there is no way in Hades that I would have named a band His Boy Elroy. But it's what's done is done. And the bottom line is they, found a way to start booking us, and they thought with that name, they'll get us booked. So I said, okay, we'll just get rid of his, make it just straight Boy Elroy, and we'll try to play up on that, boy, like a Flavor Flav type thing, and I don't know, we'll make the best of it. So we start rolling with the name Boy Elroy, and we start going through lead singer bingo. And at one point, I go with our old drummer. He takes me over to the financial district or whatever, and he's got to do some business one day over there. So he's over there, and he leaves me out in the parking lot, and I see these girls across the street, and they're looking pretty hot. So I'm like, hey, I run across the street, and I start talking to these girls, and I get their phone numbers and, and all that. And they were models and actresses and, whatever. And it all kind of ties in together, all these things. So I meet these girls. I get the phone number. I bring the girls out. I bring one of the girls to our rehearsal facility, because one of the two girls had been working with Rick James, and she was raising the money. I think it was 10 grand. Rick James wanted to produce her, and I don't know if this was a single she was trying to produce or whatever, but they had gone over to Rick James's place and hung out a little bit, and the girl that I was kind of connected with, she didn't put up with any mess. So I had asked, you got to tell me some Rick James stories, and I don't remember any exact specifics, but she's like, I made sure that he respected us, and and this and that, but this was later in the 80s. You got to think this was probably like 90, 91. This is probably like 1991 or maybe even 92. So Rick James, even though he'd had a hit with what's the MC Hammer song that got covered, "You Can't Touch This," and they used Rick James's sample. So he was probably making a lot of money from that. But in the meanwhile, he was probably spending a lot of money packing his beak. So these girls came out and saw our band, at rehearsal. And they liked the singer, they liked our singer, but they could tell, like, yeah, he's not like the best performer, and and all this. And I said, well, if we could just find somebody else. And she said, well, I know this guy, and it's funny, he's got the same name as you. And I'm like, oh, really? He goes, yeah, he has the same last name, and his first name is Steve. I said, oh. He says, oh, and he's really good looking. He's blonde, and he's got blue eyes. And I'm thinking, okay, this might be, we might be onto something. So, things kind of transition. A lot of stuff was going on at the time. And we may have, at that point in time, sent our singer packing. The logistics and the time of it, we're talking about something that's like 40 plus years ago. So I end up hanging out with this Steve guy, right? This singer. I'm thinking, this guy looks good. He's tall. He's got blonde hair. He's got a good look. He probably, he does modeling. He does acting. Thinking, man, if this guy could just sing, we might have something. And I'm like, let's hang out with him and see what he's like when you go out. And he had an apartment in Hollywood. Now, I never found out what happened to this guy. If he's out there and he watches this channel, please reach out, man. Some interesting side notes to this story. But, man, so we go out one night and say, hey, Steve, we'll pick you up. Let's all go to the Rainbow, and let's have some fun. Let's hang out, man. It was me and I believe Greg, the bass player, or maybe it was Johnny. I'm not sure, but we all go to the Rainbow. And we get one of those booths, there's booths inside. And that's where everybody would hang out back in the day, is inside. And if you got a table, you were in good shape. And so we had gotten a table, and, I probably was still working my job at the time, or might have had a couple bucks in my pocket. So we get a table, and maybe we get something to eat. I don't remember, but we may have been just drinking that night. We're hanging out, and our table was like one of those little semicircle booths. So our table is this semicircle booth, right? And it's facing another semicircle booth across from it. These red booths of the Rainbow. And it's Slash. And Slash is sitting there with a whole table full of girls. It's literally Slash in the middle, and he's surrounded by girls. And just about that time, these two girls, the thing about the Rainbow, if you had a table, you had prime real estate, right? So we're sitting there, and these two girls kind of walk by and say, hey, can we sit with you guys? We're in a band. And I'm like, okay. Now these girls weren't anything to write home about. But we're like, you guys are kind of cool. You guys play music? Yeah, I sing, and my friend plays guitar. And we're like, okay, well, you guys are cool. Come sit down with us, So we're sitting there, and we're hanging out with these girls, and they weren't, like I said, they were different levels of like girls, back in those days on the Strip. And these were not girls that we wouldn't try to like date other musicians, because we're all in the same game. It's kind of like, Now, I want to date a normal person. That was always kind of my thing. Was I didn't like the really, wild groupie types. I tried to stay away from them. I tended to like the girls from Orange County or the girls from the Valley, something that had a little bit of still small town kind of innocence to them. I didn't like I didn't want somebody that was like just like me. I mean, what would be the point of that? So we're sitting there and we're hanging with these chicks and they're telling us about their music and we're all, yucking it up and laughing and having a good time at the Rainbow. And all of a sudden, one of the girls from a table with Slash comes over to the table and she goes, well, hey, you guys seem like nice guys. And we're looking at each other. Yeah, we're nice guys, relatively speaking, I'd say we were, but, dude, we had long hair and leather jackets on and, our shirts open with our chest exposed and, wearing ripped jeans and cowboy boots. We weren't exactly choir boys, let's be honest, but she said, oh, you guys seem like nice guys. I'm like, yeah. She says, well, look, we want to go party with Slash. But our friend is, will you take care of our friend? And we're like, we'll give you $20. And we're like, oh, okay. So we're like, yeah, we're nice guys, sure. So they bring this girl over and she's like slumped over. She's passed out. This girl is passed out. And we got this $20, and then we've got the two other girls, and it's Steve, and I think it's me and Greg, or me and Johnny. I don't remember exactly which one of us was there. I know Steve was there. And so we get this $20, and we're like, oh, dude, we can get like 2 12-packs, let's all go party. So we decide we're going to go to Steve's apartment. And now we've got responsibility of this chick who's passed out, right? So we're like, we get into this tiny, econo car, and we're putting this girl in, and her boobs are all popping out of her dress, and having to put them back in, and we put her in the car, and then we got these two girls. And then Steve, and we decide we're gonna go to his apartment. And we get somebody goes and gets the beer, and we get the beer, and we're hanging out and we're drinking beer. And this girl, we put the girl on Steve's bed, and she's just out, right? And so it's like a 1-room apartment in Hollywood. So we're all hanging out, and we're drinking beer, and this girl's passed out, whatever. And so all night long, these girls had said, oh yeah, well, we live with Ron, and, Ron this and Ron that. And I never once, I was kind of like, Ron, what? Am I supposed to know that name? Am I supposed to know Ron? And they goes, oh yeah, well, we're staying with Ron right now. And so it kind of went in one ear and out there. I wasn't really interested in these girls. They were just, hey, they're hangers on right now. They're hanging out with us, and it is what it is. And now we've got this passed out girl and these two other girls. And so we're hanging out, and at some point we decided, okay, it's time to head back home. And you guys want to go to the Shock House? Yeah, we want to go to the Shock House. I'm like, all right, well, look, I've got an extra. I had it like a little twin bed off to the side, and then I had this waterbed. And I was in the Shock House, and I had a giant king-size waterbed. And so we bring these girls back to the house, and one of the guys, I think it was Greg. So I think Greg was with us that night. And Greg had his girlfriend in his room in the front of the house. And he would come in my room with the other girl on the twin bed, and he'd make out with her for a little while. He'd go, oh, well, I'll be right back. And he's like, dude, I'm going. My girlfriend's in my room, but I'll keep popping in. I'll keep them entertained, whatever. So he'd make out and grope on the girl, and then go back to the room with his girlfriend, and and whatever he was doing there, and then he'd come back and hey, and and it's like, where'd you go, and all this. So one of them crashes on the little twin bed that I had in the room, and the other one crashes with me in my bed. But these girls I was not interested in at all. So I'm crashed in the bed. Now I had a frequent problem with, I would string. The only place to really sit in my room was the waterbed, and I'd sit on the edge of the bed and I'd change my strings, before gigs. So we get up the next morning and we're both like soaked, right? And she's like, did you pee the bed? Did you pee the bed? I'm like, no, I didn't pee the bed. Well, I didn't realize that one of the strings that I had, strung up my guitars for a gig, one of the strings had gotten down, one of the, end pieces had gotten down in the waterbed, and it poked a hole in the bed. So the bed was like, the mattress was completely toast. It was leaking. We were literally like sleeping in this wet, sloshy blanket mess. So we're like, get up, and like, no, it's the bed leaked. And so we get up, and she's like, well, and by that time, Greg had gone and passed out in his room with his girlfriend, and Johnny gets up. Johnny was living in the garage, and Johnny's like, oh, hey, who are these chicks? And they're like, well, hey, guys, if you give us a ride home, we'll take you out to breakfast. And we're like, right on. So we take our wet asses down to Denny's. I think it was Denny's in the Valley. And the whole time at breakfast, oh, Ron this and Ron that. And we're sitting at breakfast, and finally I go, Ron the F who? Who are you talking about? Oh, Ron Jeremy. I'm like, oh my God. So these girls were living at Ron Jeremy's house. And so we're taking them back to Ron Jeremy's house. So I'm like, okay. So we go deeper into the valley, into this, seemingly, normal house. And we take them in. We go walk into Ron Jeremy's house, and he's got one of those big screen TVs back in the day. They were huge, but it was like a big screen. And he had like his trophies, his like AVN trophies or something on the top of the TV. He had like his AVN like awards and stuff like that all piled up on there. And Ron wasn't there. But we go in for a minute and go, okay, all right, guys, well, thanks. We had fun. Oh yeah, we'll give you a call, and oh yeah, we'll stay in touch. It's like, no, no, they're living with Ron Jeremy, bro. I'm out. So, the whole time that one girl had been passed out, or so we thought. We didn't know, she was conscious or was aware of what was going on or anything. So prologue to this whole story, about probably 3 or 4 days later, I'm hanging out with this friend of mine named Kendall. Now, Kendall was a wild dude. I'm going to have to do a whole episode about this guy. I wonder whatever happened to him. His name was Kendall Hall. He was from Bakersfield, and he's what you would probably call a desert rat. That's what we used to call him back in the day. And Kendall had substance abuse problems and was pretty sketchy, if you know what I mean. But what a funny character. So it's midday. Me and Kendall. He said, "Oh man, I got a little spot. Let's go check out this place. They got cheap beer and go-go dancers." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds cool. Let's go there." I think it was like $5, pitcher of beer, or $3 or something crazy like that. So we go in this little go-go bar, and I sit down, and all of a sudden I say, "Hi, Brad," and I look up, and it's the girl that was passed passed out at the Rainbow. There she is on stage, and she totally knew my name. She knew who I was. And I was like, oh my God, it's the girl. It's the girl that we literally like helped out of the Rainbow and passed out at my friend Steve's house. Now, I don't know if her and Steve hooked up, or I have no idea. Maybe, I don't know. But the fact that she knew me, knew my name, recognized me immediately, maybe she wasn't completely passed out. I don't know. But, and who knows with the girls that went to party with Slash, who knows what kind of debauchery and insanity went on at that location. I'll never know. But there is a slight bit more to the story. Now, a while back, about a couple years ago, there was a vlog or blog about Guns N' Roses. What was the video? It was the slow song, November Rain. So one day I'm watching MTV and the November Rain video comes on, and I see the familiar face jumping through the cake. Now, I immediately goes, that's Steve. Now, Steve didn't work out as the singer of our band. We auditioned him, but he just didn't have a good enough voice to be able to pull it off. So we didn't really hang out with him much after that. But, you know, we did stay in touch. I had his number. He had my number. So I'm seeing him on MTV jumping through this cake in a Guns N' Roses video. And I immediately pick up the phone and go, dude, I just saw you in the Guns N' Roses video. I goes, dude, what happened? I said, well, man, I got an acting gig to be in this shoot. And, I'm doing this, the shoot. And I think he said they were in Arizona, but I don't remember. And, we're there and the cake, was sitting there and the cameras were rolling, and I just decided to just jump and plow through the cake. And I was like, wow. And so there'd been this blog, this vlog, and I had seen them discussing with great length who was the guy that jumped through the cake in the November Rain video. And I knew the answer. I knew who it was. And they had said, oh, it's what's the guy from the Cat House? Not Tammy Down, but Ricky Rockman. They said, oh, is it Ricky Rockman? No, it's not Ricky Rockman. He had long, straight, like dirty blonde hair. And it was my friend Steve. So, there is my friend Steve for all eternity, in one of the biggest music videos, most dramatic music videos of all time, is the guy I was hanging out with at the Rainbow the night that the girls come up to our table and say, we want to party with Slash. And then we take their leftover, their passed out girl, and we go off into the night. And there's Steve, who ends up getting hired on an acting shoot and ends up being the guy that jumped through the cake in the Guns N' Roses video. Man, the crazy stuff that used to happen on the Sunset Strip.